let's talk about a super interesting, kind of weird idea that could honestly change how you go after, well, pretty much everything. Your goals, your career, even your relationships. And you know that feeling, right? Where you want a job so badly, or you really want a certain person to like you. But it feels like the more you fixate on it, the more it just slips away. It's maddening, but it's also a real thing, and it actually has a name.
And here it is, the pedestal effect. The idea is simple. When you make something way too important in your head, you subconsciously create this resistance. It's like you're telling the universe, that thing is way up there and I'm all the way down here. And that gap you just created, that's the very thing that keeps your goal from reaching you.
Okay, so how does this actually look in the real world? Let's dive into a perfect story that shows this paradox in action.
So there's this great story about a guy who got dragged along by his friend to a group interview at Zappos. You know, the shoe company that's famous for its super unique culture. Now, his friend was desperate for this job.
But the guy telling the story, he honestly could not have cared less. He was literally just there to keep his buddy company. For him, there was zero pressure, zero attachment. The job wasn't on a pedestal at all. So during the interview, the recruiters say they like weird people. And since our guy has nothing to lose, he just leans into it. They ask about his hobbies, and he starts joking about challenging the neighborhood kids to games of hopscotch. He was just being playful and totally himself, for one simple reason. He wasn't trying to impress anybody. And you can probably guess what happened next. He got the job offer. His friend, the one who wanted it so badly, who had put it on that pedestal, he didn't. It's a perfect example. His relaxed, don't-care energy made him magnetic, while his friend's desperate wanting probably just created a wall of resistance. That story is amazing, right? But what is actually going on inside our heads to make this happen? Let's get into the psychology behind this whole resistance thing. It turns out this resistance follows a pretty simple three-step cycle. First, we decide something is the most important thing ever, that getting it will finally make us feel complete. Then, that pressure creates all this internal tension and anxiety. And finally, that very tension is what blocks the outcome. It's this crazy loop of self-sabotage that we usually don't even see. Now, this isn't magic or some weird cosmic rule. It's actually rooted in our psychology, and a lot of it comes down to our nervous system. See, many of us learn as kids that getting approval from others, especially our parents, makes us feel safe. This wires us with patterns like people-pleasing or over-giving, where we make someone else's opinion of us super important just so we can feel okay. And this right here is maybe the most important thing to get. You might have a pattern of people-pleasing, but that doesn't mean you are a people-pleaser. You might have a pattern of needing validation, but that's not your identity. These are just old strategies you learned to survive. Realizing they're separate from who you truly are is the first step to changing everything. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, we see where it comes from. Now for the good part, the solution. And it all boils down to one incredibly powerful shift in your mindset. Seriously, get ready for this one. Because once you really truly grasp this next idea, it can change the way you see pretty much everything. This is the secret right here. A job rejection, a promotion, a weird text message. None of these things mean anything on their own. They're just neutral events. We are the ones who decide they're good or bad or a huge deal. And if we're the ones giving things meaning, that means we have the power to change that meaning whenever we want. Think about it like this. A baby doesn't have to do anything to be worthy of love and care. It just is. And we're exactly the same. We've just forgotten that and learned to play this game where we think we have to earn our worthiness. The moment you realize your worth is non-negotiable, the desperate need for outside things to prove it just starts to melt away. Okay, so this sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? Let's get really practical here and break down how you can shift your own energy from that state that blocks everything to a state that lets it all in. Putting something on a pedestal forces you into what you could call a contracted state. You feel anxious, needy, you try to control things, but the energy that attracts is an open state. You're present, you're accepting, you're just allowing things to be what they are. Just take a second. Can you actually feel the difference between those two? So here's a simple 4-step way to shift. First, just notice, what are you putting on a pedestal right now? Second, try to identify the pattern underneath. Is it that old people-pleasing habit? Third, and this is the hardest part, actually welcome the feeling you're so scared of. If you're afraid of feeling rejected or ashamed, just for a moment, stop running from it. And finally, just allow that feeling to exist. Don't fight it.
When you stop resisting the emotion, its power dissolves, and it can finally move through you. When you start practicing this, you begin to take your power back. You start making this calm, neutral state your new normal way of being. Because here's the ultimate paradox. When you fully accept yourself and realize you don't need that job or that person to be okay, you take them off the pedestal. Your worth is no longer tied to the outcome. And that self-sufficient, calm, neutral energy, that is what makes you absolutely magnetic.
So, let's do a quick recap. The big takeaways are, whatever you put on a pedestal, you push away. Number 2, this is just a learned pattern. It is not your identity. 3, remember that reality is neutral. You are the one who gives it meaning. And finally, the way to change is to shift from that contracted to an open state by feeling your emotions instead of fighting them.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. What would open up for you? What would become possible in your life if you truly, deeply decided that you're already enough, right now, with nothing else needed?